My path wasn't linear. I've quit coding probably 3 or 4 times, and today I'm here to tell you my story. It all started during my university year. I signed up for a bootcamp for 6 weeks. And in those 6 weeks, we were supposed to get like the basics of coding. First 2 weeks of C++, 2 weeks of Java, and then the other 2 weeks web development. It's ridiculous that I've spent money on this shit. How do you think is it possible to learn anything in 2 weeks? It's not. So any bootcamp that is trying to sell you that you can become a developer in 2 or 3 months or so, I'm sorry, you can't. Maybe you are extraordinary and maybe you learn quickly. That's good. I cannot imagine getting a job straight out of a bootcamp that lasted for 2 or 3 months. That was my first try of becoming a developer. That didn't work out well because I hated it. I didn't understand what's going on. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, I'm not gonna be a developer. That's fine. I'm gonna study what I'm studying. I was actually studying social science. I have a bachelor degree in there. It was industrial technology management. That course was literally about nothing. I had some economics, I had some finances, I had some physics, but overall, why I decided to go to coding because I wanted to have a skill that would actually get me a job after I graduate. Long story short, a year after bootcamp, I decided to try again. And then I started just by learning the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Somehow I thought that HTML and CSS is pretty hard, which was obviously not, but just building those blocks and divs all around, I really liked it. I enjoyed it, and I enjoy seeing all the CSS stuff on actual screen that I did it myself. So that was a huge plus because I felt like, oh my god, I'm doing something with my hands, like I am creating something. Little did I know that it was just a start and that front-end developer doesn't mean that you're gonna use CSS that much. So while I was studying in my university, because I couldn't quit it, my parents were like, you have to get a diploma for sure, because if you're not gonna get a diploma, what are you gonna study afterwards? You're already 21, I think, which is ridiculous because I was so young. Anyways, they didn't want me to quit. I had to study, and it was good that I wasn't working at the time, but also at the same time, while I was studying at the university, in my spare time, I was learning to code. There are multiple good sites. There are like Code Academy, free coding bootcamps that actually really helped me to get me going, especially on JavaScript. But again, my path was ups and downs. I didn't look for the job because I had to finish my university degree. I did that, and after that, I moved to Madrid to have an internship there. In order for me to get an internship, I was supposed to do something based on my degree. That's what I did. So it meant that I wasn't actually coding again. So I've spent another year doing coding on the side. But during that year, I actually locked in and I thought, you know what, this is it. I'm gonna learn. And that's where I started doing my own projects. I took a few freelance clients. I built websites for free, doing backend with PHP because that was another thing that I found on Udemy probably. And honestly, on Udemy, you can find really good courses based on coding. But why did I decide to do PHP? I honestly have no idea, but that's what I did. After that year, I finally got my first job because I learned PHP. That meant that I've got a job based on WordPress development. And if you know PHP, it is the worst language ever. WordPress development, it is the worst thing ever. Please don't do that. If you're starting right now, there are way better technologies. But yeah, this is what I was doing. So I've got that job. I was working there for probably a year. It was not good. I hated it. Was struggling a lot. And little did I know that it was because I was working with a wrong language, but also I was working at a very bad company. It was a small startup and it was agency-based company. So I guess it is important to note that if you want to be a developer and you will look for a job, usually you will have two options. One is to work on product-based, the other one is going to be like agency type. Fast forward to that, COVID hit, I started freelancing. I've actually got a few really good deals in terms of freelancing work. I was still doing things on PHP, so I was working with clients. I really didn't like the whole client work, but I started liking the development part. And at the same time, I started designing pages, which was super, super fun for me, and I still like it to this day. However, even though I started to gain some respect and gaining more responsibility in terms of the work I was doing, I still didn't want to open my own agency. And honestly, I still hated it because I was working with WordPress. So in 2021, I discovered Shopify development, and it was game changer for me. I was like, oh my god, let's do this. This is so fun. But also I felt like I really wanted to work in agency kind of environment because I always thought that I want to open agency myself or just be a freelancer so I could work from anywhere and have clients and all of that jazz. After working with clients for a pretty long time, I didn't like it as well. So as you can tell, I was a mess. However, Shopify development, it was a game changer for sure. I really liked it. It was so easy. It was so easy to understand. I started using all the other technologies. I started using Vue.js on that, Alpine.js, and I decided to create my own Shopify template. So the creativity was flowing, and I felt like I finally found something where I feel alive and what I really, really like. So my advice would be honestly to try different languages and to see what sticks to you. Just because somebody says that this language or that framework is a very good one and you're gonna get a great job if you learn this, you don't have to listen to it. You can actually just try and see what works for you, what you like. Maybe there are some backend stuff, maybe there are AI development that you will like way more. So definitely try things out. For me, Shopify development was the first thing where I felt like I can do this job for a really long time. And that's when I decided to look for the actual job. But I live in Europe. I'm not a native English speaker, so I decided to start looking for a job, but the job had to be in US because most Shopify agencies were based in US. That's actually another video of how I've got the job there. But I landed the job. It was a very good experience. I finally had a proper tech lead that knew what he was doing. I think a mentor, it is super, super important. Even if you're doing this for a pretty low salary, there is a person that can teach you a lot of things that also you can trust to ask questions and can point you to a right direction. It is life-changing moments. So I stayed in that agency. I absolutely loved it, even though it was a small agency. We had so many fun projects. I've done some projects that I thought I will never ever do, and that was only in 1 year. I've started trusting myself more. I've started trusting in my skills. I've started earning money. I've started earning pretty good money based on everything that I was doing before. The salary was super, super low. I think my first job was like, I don't know, 600 euros. And then I've got a job that paid me $55 per hour. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Then my amazing tech lead left the company. And even though I stayed in that company, I was doing pretty well. I decided to look for another job because I was a contractor at the time. And I really didn't like this instability of that I didn't know how many hours I'm gonna get during a specific month. So it might be 80 hours, it might be 20. And that's where I decided to look for another job. And I thought, I'm gonna do a Shopify development again. I applied to a couple of jobs. It was going really well. I somehow cracked the system how to send CVs and get to interviews. There is one job that got my attention, and I don't know why, but I've just sent my CV there, and it was for a junior developer role. But the role itself, it was different in terms of it that it was a product-based business. So because it was a product-based business, I thought that I don't have enough skills to be a developer there, and I kind of had to switch. There's a whole process of technical interviews and stuff, and at the same time, I was applying to another agency that was Shopify. I've got both of these jobs at the same time, also another story. And I decided that I want to have a challenge, and I went to a product-based business. And that was also a huge switch in my career. Glad that I took this job, and I took the job not in an agency environment anymore. I also started making more money. They increased my salary pretty quickly. They understood that I'm not a junior developer. But to sum up everything I've said, one thing is try different languages, try what works for you. Maybe coding is not for you after all. Second, start doing your own projects. Create your website, create projects on GitHub, just show your work. And third one, apply to different jobs. You don't have to stay in the environment that you feel like it's not good for you, even though you might feel grateful that you've got a job in the first place. It's not enough. You have to feel like you're growing there, and you have to feel like you're actually learning something. And I guess it is also important to know, is it worth doing it for the money? I would say yes and no, because we can talk a lot about that money is not important. However, money is important. We have to live our lives and we have to pay for everything that we're doing. So I would definitely say that money is important. And if you just want to try just because you want to get a good job till you find something that you like, I think that's very valid reason. However, if you can find just a little bit of joy on solving problems, that would be a huge plus. Because maybe if you can't find that joy in solving the problem, maybe there are better ways for you to make money. So all in all, this job is hard. You're gonna be stuck again and again and again. And even when you feel like you know something, you will quickly understand that you barely know anything. And you constantly have to keep up with all the new technologies, and everything is changing with AI right now as well. This is my story, and thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I will definitely answer those. Thank you.